What's up everyone, Thralls Metal here once again. I'm the Croc Nick and I have an album review for you. This time I'm going to go over a debut album. This time I'm going to go over something fiercely underground, and it is their debut album. I'm talking about the band Gravesend with their album Methods of Human Disposal. This came out on the 19th of February on 20 Bucks Spin. Again, this is their debut album. They are from New York and formed in 2020, so this is a really new band. They have only one previous demo before this, and it is called Preparations for Human Disposal, so there's a little bit of a theme there. And all the members go by just a single initial. We have S, G, and A, and this is pretty much, I would just say, blackened grindcore. And man, it is the meeting of the sludgiest, dirtiest, filthiest aspects of both of those genres. Little hints of death metal in there too, but I would say those are the two main things right there. Now this album is kind of interesting in the sense that it has kind of two intros. Fear City and STH10 are both kind of intro tracks, but they're both very different. Fear City is essentially droning synths that reminded me of pretty much Fulci movies, lots of Italian horror. There are some samples of, I guess, some yelling in there. Someone's getting told something and it's pretty aggressive. And then when you get into SDH10, you're pretty much greeted to almost the March of the SOD riff, except it was being played by Napalm Death circa Scum. It is thick and nasty. The bass tone absolutely snarls on here. The drums sound absolutely huge, and one thing you get on here that I would say is kind of a big part of this is war drums. I guess you could call it war drums. Essentially giant accents where they're just beating on the floor toms, and the drums sound absolutely huge in here. The guitars are very thick and kind of staticky. It's kind of, again, both of the nastier sides of both black metal and grindcore kind of smashed together. And when the vocals kick in on the title track, the third track, when you're finally getting into like a full-on track, the vocals are as cavernous and howling as possible. There are two vocalists on here, but I believe it's the bassist that does the majority of the vocals, and he has sort of a higher shrill scream, but again, just tons and tons of reverb. This sounds like it was recorded inside of an old subway tunnel. And it has still kind of like a demo quality. It still sounds very raw, very just kind of bare bones. Like the riffs are kind of simple, but they're elegant. And I like the way they just pretty much just pummel you with the heaviest thing they possibly can at the moment. I would compare a lot of this to, like, you know, early grind and early black metal in terms of, like, again, the most raw forms. So think, you know, Carcass's Reek of Putrefaction, then sort of mash that up with Mayhem's Death Crush EP. It's really just that raw and abrasive. Now all this pretty much has like grindcore song lengths. Most of them barely scratch the 2-minute mark. There's only one on here I think that is closer to 3 minutes, Trinity Burning, which is a fantastic song with really a lot of dynamics for something I really wasn't expecting a lot of dynamics in. You know, when you think of grind, you think of the most violent musical outburst possible condensed in the shortest amount of time. That's pretty much how I define it, and it's still that, but there are lots of interesting shifts. It's not just all pummeling blast beats and, like, you know, punk chords or just, you know, a steady tremolo on the black metal side. There are really cool groovy pockets, chuggy death metal riffs. In fact, Unclaimed Remains and Ashen Piles of the Incinerated, both great song titles, have distinctly like death metal moments, but we're talking like the very cavernous death metal, so definitely some like incantation in there too. It's just thick and murky. Outside of a few moments on here, I would say most of the blackened aspects come courtesy of the production itself and the vocals. The vocals pretty much stay on that sort of high, kind of echoey scream, except for occasionally you get some low vocals layering them, where when they do use that, it's very effective. The Gravesend and Absolute Filth, which is definitely a good descriptor of this album, both use some layered vocals on there that kind of just drive an extra bit of impact in there. But for the most part, I would say this is definitely more grindcore. Subterranean Solitude definitely has some more blackened moments, like you definitely hear like a distinctly black metal tremolo in there, and it's still kind of punky, but reminds me more of like Dark Throne, probably circa Panzerfaust, just because of how raw and gritty that sounds, and vocally kind of comparable, except I'm pretty sure they weren't hammered drunk when they did this. The whole thing kind of screams very minimalist, but hyper aggressive. And that was the thing I really loved, especially on the drums. The drums pretty much reminded me a lot of old school death metal and then Repulsion, because when it comes down to blast, this dude just attacks his kit. It's pretty much a beat down whenever he does. It sounds like he's just punishing it. And the fact that you can kind of feel the aggression, the performance was something I really latched onto. Like, this dude is just wailing on this shit. There's even some cool hardcore nods. Unclaimed Remains opens up with a giant hardcore breakdown. Like, this really sounds like something you would hear on like a Sick of It All album or an Earth Crisis album, except of course with this sludgy blackened production. And my God, it's absolutely heavier than hell, and one of my favorite moments on here, because this is a really good slow build, or at least a good slow build for a short grindcore song that actually has a bit of a lead in before it gets into the, grindy freakouts and such, which, believe me, you're going to get plenty of those. Another favorite on here was Scum Breed Scum, just because this one is almost an instrumental. There's a few lines of vocals, and then they pretty much just repeat the song title like an anthem towards the end. But again, this one pretty much reinforced what I love on here with the big groovy sections, and my God, when they hit those, they are just like skull crushing riffs. They have that much power to them. And pretty much I was reminded of, like Misery Index in terms of their like death grind sound. I really just kind of latched onto that. Now, as for things that I didn't like about this album, I would say the interlude Eye for an Eye is a little bit long. In fact, it's longer than some of the tracks in here, and if you have an interlude that's longer than some of your tracks, even if you're a grindcore band, I think that's just, I don't know, kind of odd. It's essentially just droning synths with some like scraped guitar lines and just samples, like people yelling and weird ambient noise. It really doesn't do much other than like break up the two halves of the album, but it really screamed kind of unnecessary. Like, this is an interlude, but honestly, at that point, it kind of kills momentum, and the whole thing on this is just momentum. It's pretty much bullet training songs because, that's the grindcore way. You just keep hitting. And this kind of killed that a little bit. And then the last track, Concrete Feet, which honestly I really enjoyed, it fades out too soon. In fact, it fades out where I think there was more song left. And we kind of ran into that issue when we were reviewing Humanity's Last Breaths album. There are moments on there where the song cuts out too soon and you just feel like there was more song. Or at least like, a proper ending. I feel like this needed a proper big end because the sound of this album is huge. It's massive. It's walls of ugly and hatred and contempt and all the appropriate adjectives, once again, just hurled in your face. I really dug this, though. This is a awesome debut. I am definitely a fan of this band now. I love the mix of, again, the ugliest aspects of both grindcore and black metal on here. So overall, I'm going to give this 4 stars. This is a nasty debut. Like, this has the worst intentions for your eardrums. It just wants to fuck you up. That's pretty much it. The groovy sections have such a punch to it. This is still riffy as hell too, so it's not all just dissonance and such. And while musically there isn't a lot of like black metal moments on here, the production and the overall feel of the album, the atmosphere and the vocals really kind of carry that black metal flag into battle, with of course a legion of grindcore mutants behind it. That's a hell of a visual. I feel like I just painted like a post-apocalyptic metal scenario or something like that. I don't know, I'd watch it, whatever. This is a solid album. Go pick it up. I think it's only available digitally right now, but hopefully physical copies come out soon because I'm definitely getting this. So if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. Also, don't forget, we have a giveaway going on. Once we hit 4,500 subs, we are going to give away a nice little package of 3 CDs and a vinyl. If you go to our channel, it should be playing immediately. If not, there is a link below in the description. We are close to hitting 4,400 subs right now, so thank you guys very much. And we look forward to keep providing you guys with lots of cool content, just because there's so much metal out there that we want to cover. And I think we're probably going to cover a good chunk of it. So with that, I thank you guys very much, and we will catch you later.